Hey guys, it's Zach from Gadget. I am here with Mike Owen from Canon Europe, and he's going to show us the 1dx.
Hi Zach, nice to see you. Here we have the 1dx. As you can see, it looks pretty much like a lot of the previous 1 series bodies, but actually there are very subtle differences on the front and the back of the camera, as well as obviously major changes inside as well. So on the front of the camera, you'll notice instead of just one depth of field preview button, we've actually got 2 buttons here, and this allows photographers to be able to edit and control the settings of these cameras and be able to set these buttons so they work in features that they use every single day. One of the big things you'll notice when you look at the back of the camera is obviously the huge LCD screen. So it has a new 3.2-inch LCD screen which has a much higher resolution than previous models. We've also included a new dedicated AF tab, so when you're working with the new 61-point AF system, you can get to all of the AF settings very, very quickly, and everything you find and everything you need is in one place. To try and make the AF system very easy to use, we've put in a number of case studies, so if you work in a particular style of photography or a particular genre, there are a few settings that maybe will help guide you and get a little bit more effective use out of the product. Now, we've talked obviously about the 61 AF points, and one of the key things is that actually the 61 AF points, out of those 61 points, 41 of them are cross type AF points, and that means that the photographer is able to get much more accurate framing and much more accurate AF throughout the frame, giving them much greater flexibility when focusing and selecting the composition of their image. If they're working in the center of the frame, then we have 5 dual cross-type AF points as well, which again allows them greater number of planes through which they can try and detect focus. But the AF system is only one small component within the camera. Obviously we have the new AF system, we have the new CMOS sensor as well, which offers a full frame sensor with 18.1 megapixels. Now you compare that to the 1D Mark IV, that's an increase in resolution, but because we've gone from an APS-H to a full frame sensor, we've actually seen a 21% increase in each individual pixel size, and that will really enable the camera to shoot in much lower light conditions than they've been able to before. So we've been able to increase the AF sensitivity down 1 stop to EV-2 compared to EV-1 on the 1D Mark IV. One of the other key things you'll notice with this particular product is there's also a brand new exposure meter in here as well. So the auto exposure system has taken a huge leap forward than previous models. On the previous models we had a black and white sensor for measuring the metering, which obviously can cause problems when shooting with large swathes of yellow, for example. And what you can do with this particular product is, because it's actually working through RGB, it means that accuracy of exposure is much higher. The fact that we've coupled in 100,000 pixel AE sensor as well means that it's going to get the finest details in each of those 100,000 is broken down into 252 zones when shooting in fairly good light like we have today, or if you're shooting in low light it will go to 35 individual zones, meaning that whatever the situation you're going to get accurate metering. But this system has a lot of data and is working with a lot of data on every single frame. The fact that it's shooting at up to 12 frames a second. And the AE system has a dedicated Digic 4 processor. That means that the camera not only has dual Digic 5 processors for shooting, but has a single Digic 4 just for the exposure system. So now we've seen leap forwards in the exposure system, in the sensor and in the AF system. And this for us is really important, that it actually is in a body that photographers can work with on a daily basis. When you open up the memory card door, we've got 2 CF card slots rather than the CF and SD that you saw in the previous 1 series, and this is really important for our photographers because it means they just have a single media. Now when you're actually using the camera and you have it in your hand, you've got 2 multi-controllers, so whether you're shooting in portrait or in landscape mode, you've got the ability to control all of your AF points from using the same controller without having the issue of not being able to reach all of the settings in one thing. We also have the same battery, a new battery, but the old battery will work within the new camera as well, which means that if you have batteries you don't have to upgrade. We have a gigabit LAN Ethernet port, which means if you're shooting, for example, at a sports event or in the studio, you can pull the images straight out of your camera with extreme speed. And then we have an accessory port like we have on the 1D Mark IV, but obviously because it's much higher on the side of the camera, the accessories are actually much smaller, so that the Wi-Fi device and the GPS device that will sit in this port will work very seamlessly with the product. So as you can see, there have been a lot of changes with this product, but a lot of the outside is more of an evolution as to what the photographer is used to working with, and that for us is very important. So that's just sort of a brief rundown of the EOS 1DX here at the Canon Pro Solutions in London, and I hope you enjoy the product.